Welcome to The Experience, live with Russ and Scott. Join us every Wednesday at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Learn more about the Experience community at our website, local.theexperience.video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Experience is brought to you each week by these great sponsors. The Aspects of Aging weekly talk show with Christine A. Smith. Each Monday at noon Central, Christine hosts unscripted conversations with experts. Learn more at agingbetternetwork.com. The Parakeet Drawing, You Are Worthy, is a book by Gina DeFay. This book is a powerful memoir about the ripple effects of a small act of kindness. The Parakeet Drawing, You Are Worthy, is available on Amazon. Nancy Bockian, Best Entrepreneur Solutions, revealing the key ingredients to skyrocket business profits with proven strategies and tactics. Call Nancy at 514-895-1572, online bestentrepreneursolutions.com. Albany Area Habitat for Humanity, since 1993, dedicated to building low-cost homes by forming partnerships with families. Get involved today on the web at albanyareahfh.org. And now let's get on with the show.
Hey, and let us really get on with the show. We're there. There we are. Ta-da! Good morning, everybody. Welcome to The Experience Live with Russ and Scott. And Scott, you're coming to us remotely today.
Yeah, I'm just crossed over from Gallup, New Mexico into northern Arizona on my way to Sedona. So another 2.5 hours, but found a little picnic bench here, and here we are. And
you're not on the Route 66, are you?
Actually, it is. Actually, it is Route 66, yeah.
I just want to sing that song all the way to Sedona. There we go.
Yeah, Gallup, New Mexico.
That's it.
Don't forget Winona.
That's it. That is so awesome. So awesome.
Flagstaff, England.
You are just a blessing, Scott, and I'm so grateful every Wednesday. Not only do we have the most remarkable guests here at 7 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, 9 a.m. Texas Standard Time every Wednesday, but Scott, I get to learn from you and be with my good friend every week, and I'm so thankful
every week. I love it. I love it. I get inspiration from a true inspiration specialist.
Woo-hoo. And I get somebody who listens to me from a motivational listener.
There we go.
Well,
it's
listen,
a good partnership, isn't it?
Yes, it is such a good partnership. And, tell us what, besides visiting family, what do you have going on in your world right now?
Well, it'll be the Global Tea Break is coming up on Friday. And this month in August, because August started on Friday, it's coming up this week. And we're going to have Inger Van Roy. And people remember that she has been on this show recently. And so we look forward to having her talking about community. Networking is important. Community. As our friend Ted Rubin says, networking gives you reach. Community gives you power.
Yes, well, that is so true. Absolutely. And Inger is amazing at that. We were so blessed last week to have Inger Van Roy on this show. Oh, and you're taking a selfie. There we are. Now we're all famous.
I'm doing a Russ selfie.
There you go. We're all on there. So, and I wasn't even ready. Okay. So, listen, I'm so excited about things coming up. And right now I am jumped into finish the first copy of, or the first round of my book, and in the first round of edits right now. Life happens, and then you choose. It's going to be out later this fall or early winter. And so super excited about that. And thank you, Scott, for your help on that. We're going to be taking a look at that. But anyway, things are good, and I'm excited about opportunities ahead. And I'm excited about James on this morning. What an amazing guy. We had just a great conversation. And I thought this is somebody we definitely need to have on the Experience and talk to. And I don't know that you've really had a chance to meet James yet.
I'm looking forward to learning today. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, me too. So I tell you what, we're going to jump right into it. I'm just going to remind everybody that we're here 7 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time every Wednesday. That's Pacific Standard Time. That is 9 a.m. Texas Standard Time. Don't forget, everybody, please join our YouTube. Scott has put together a nifty site, local.theexperience.video, where you can find out all about Scott and I, about all of our experience shows. Would love to have you do that. And also subscribe to our YouTube. But if you want to go straight to the YouTube, you can just go to the experience.video today and subscribe to our YouTube. We'd love to have you do that. Also, please do not forget, while you're watching today, share this out, tag your friends, let them know we're on, remind everybody. Guess what? James is going to be out and you don't want to miss it. So with that, Scott, I think we should get him in the room.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Good morning, Mr. James Gardner. How you doing, my friend?
Good morning, Russ and Scott. Good to see you guys this morning.
Yes, we're so great to see you and have you with us today. And you know what? What a blessing it was to talk with you a while back. And I was so excited for this show. So, James, we're just going to start off with the basics. Who in the world is James Gardner? What are you up to?
Well, James Gardner is retired. I don't know if I should use the word retired. I worked in finance for 40 years. And, I have 3 daughters who are grown. I have 5 grandchildren, 1 on the way, and my wife Kelly. We've been in a couple of weeks. We'll be married 42 years, and she and I are together. We're doing so many things now. One of the things being the podcast, which we'll talk about later, I guess.
And is she your chief technology officer that we saw just a few minutes ago?
Yeah, I don't.
Backstage.
You're absolutely right. She even had to put the headphones on my head. That's how pathetic I am without her.
Well done. Yeah, I look forward to getting to know you a little bit more. Congratulations. My wife and I, this month, we celebrate 41 years. So we're on your heels there.
Newlyweds.
Yeah. So how did you guys meet? Let's go back into history for a moment.
Sure. Early in my career, I worked for a company in West Caldwell here. I was just sort of cutting my teeth in the accounting field. And my boss's boss, I knew he had a daughter who was a little younger than me, 4 years younger than me. And I was attending a company picnic. And who do I meet but this girl who I thought, oh my gosh, she's really cute. I gotta talk to her. But I thought for sure she had a boyfriend or even a fiance. I thought she had, and turns out that had ended. And we sort of hung out at this barbecue. Of course, you're kind of worried because this is the boss's daughter. So what's going to happen if this doesn't go well? And yeah, we hit it off. And a week later, we went to Great Adventure down in South Jersey, and we had a great date. And believe it or not, within 3 months we were engaged, and within the year we were married. And here we are.
And I bet you I know you have the same wife. I bet you don't have the same boss.
I still don't have the same. I don't have the same boss.
So you found you made the right choice.
I made the right choice. I've got 42 years, and then and my boss became my father-in-law.
Well, I want to say it's interesting, James. We have a lot in common because my beautiful wife, when I first called her after I met her, I thought she had a boyfriend too, and I was going to just totally not pursue it. And my sister really encouraged me to call her back and ask her out on a date. And we were engaged in less than 2 months after meeting and married in just a year after that. So we were pretty much full steam ahead. That was at the end of my college career. Graduated from college, got married 6 months later, and to my beautiful dream girl, she is amazing. And I've been so blessed. And I'm behind both of you, but we're at 38 this year.
Well, congratulations.
December. So yeah, we're moving there. Yeah. So
we met in Sunday school when we were both in college, which is a good place to meet. And then, but nothing was going to happen because I was shipping out to the Air Force. We continued writing letters. She saw to it that the group letters went out, and she was the last one to sign each one. To put it in and send it off to me. Then we got engaged. We were engaged for a year and lived in separate countries. I don't recommend that.
No.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you know what? I tell you, James, you had a career in finance and all the things you did, but you have a passion. Tell us more about what you're doing now.
Yeah, I was an undergraduate. I absolutely loved history. So in undergraduate, I majored in history at Moravian College in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and I loved it. I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. And I got out of college, and then people were saying, "What are you going to do with a history degree?" And they weren't. I didn't even have I didn't even take any education classes, so I didn't know what I wanted to do. And people were saying, "Oh, the baby boomers are all leaving school system, they're all moving on into schools." Some of the schools were actually closing because there was such a drop in enrollment. So weren't many teaching jobs, even if I wanted to go that way. So I ended up taking this job typing invoices in this company, which eventually I met my wife through. And I ended up in the accounting area. I went back for my MBA in finance at Fairfield University. And from there, I was in a business career. I was in auditing and accounting for many, many years. And in my 50s, I ended up enrolling at Liberty University for a master's in theological studies. So I guess I never knew really what I wanted to be when I grew up, even now. But what happened then is, so I ended up retiring at age, I think I was 61 by the time I actually retired from full-time work. And then, of course, COVID hit almost immediately after I retired. So that was a blessing in one way, but in another way, it's like, now what? And, we're trying to think of what to do. Kelly and I used to, for many years, in evenings and sometimes weekends, we would go around sort of as a hobby, lecturing at seniors' places, libraries, historical societies about usually topics in American history. And it was my way of keeping my love of history alive. And then what happened with COVID, that kind of fizzled out, and you really couldn't go to any of those places anymore. And it became something, what are we going to do now? So friends of ours suggested, hey, look, you should do a podcast because you like to hear people's stories and you like to tell stories. So why don't you do that? Now, I don't know about you guys, but not too many years ago, I really wasn't familiar with podcasts. Like, really, what were they? How would you do it? So we started on this journey of how do we do it technically? Like, what do you do? What do you buy? What equipment do you need? I'm so low tech. It's incredible. And Kelly didn't have a lot of experience with this, but she learned with some friends of ours from our church who are very good at it. They helped us with it. Kelly really got down on the curve, and she learned, not only covers the social media aspect, but she does all the editing. She really is in touch with like getting the word out, and she really produces these episodes. But I'm the host, or as Kelly says, that I call myself the silkened voice. And
I love it.
I'm the one who does the research and then the actual interviews. But the two of us, like, neither one of us could really do this without the other. And we've been doing it for 5 years now? 5 years. And we have about, I forget, I think it's like 160 episodes or a little more. And what we like to do is we tell stories. The name of our podcast is Your History, Your Story. And basically what we do is we talk to people. They could be college professors, they could be authors, they could be somebody who's had something that's gone on in their family, the story they want to tell, or an ancestor who was very interesting, or some event that they're talking about. It's really storytelling. And we've had such a wide variety of guests, from 100-year-old World War II veterans to one of the last remaining munchkins on the Wizard of Oz, to former mobsters even. We've had many guests. It's been a lot of fun. And here we are. We're still doing it.
There's some great stories. Well, the one thing that's really nice about history is they're making more of it every day.
You're right. You're right.
So you picked a good subject. It's interesting you talk about these stories that people have. And when we would go to conferences, trade shows, that type of thing, and you're there for multiple days, you're hanging out with people. Pretty soon, when you go to a meal, you go to dinner, you don't want to keep talking about shop, right? You want to talk about something different, but I don't really know these people. So the question I would ask is, James, tell me about your grandparents. And, it's, if I ask you about your parents, maybe that's good, maybe that's not, maybe it's too close to home. But grandparents, if they were a gangster, if they were a saint, it doesn't matter because it's far enough away, right? It becomes mythology in a way. And so I like the way you're doing this. One of the questions that everyone who does a podcast gets asked by people who don't do podcasts: how do you find your guests?
That is a good question, and that has evolved over time. Originally, we started to look on Facebook for, who could we think of from I love old television stuff, old movies. I love any kind of political history, political history. And I was looking for like descendants of people who were famous, who might have stories to tell about their grandparent or their great grandparent. So we started putting out little feelers out on Facebook. And of course, initially we heard nothing. And then all of a sudden we'd get a response, and then we'd follow up on it. And one of our earlier guests was a woman, Susan Tyler. Her father was the grandson of John Tyler, the President Tyler from early 19th century. It was kind of an anomaly in that this man who was born in 1790 still had living grandsons in the 2020s. And I found out that one of the grandsons died. I found his daughter. I interviewed her. She put me in touch with somebody. His name is Nicholas Inman. He's out in Missouri. He's out of Missouri, and he does something called the Cherry Blossom Festival every year. And he brings from all over presidential descendants, old-time child actors and actresses from old movies. I connected with him. He started connecting me with people who had these interesting backgrounds. The young man who was starred in the show Lassie, if both of you remember that show, and Father Knows Best. And we started getting up. Once people see that you've interviewed people like that, then the word gets out. Presidential descendants started talking to each other, and I've been interviewing them, and a lot of them congregate in different associations and stuff. So the word gets out, hey, this podcast is pretty good. This guy asks good questions. It's fun. So that happened. Same thing in the military community. We interviewed these two elderly men. One of them still living, one's just passed. One was a fighter pilot. One was a B-17 bomber pilot. Interviewed Jimmy Doolittle's granddaughter, from World War II fame. I know this is definitely Scott. I'm sure you're interested in Air Force. Jimmy Doolittle, Hap Arnold. I spoke to his grandson. So we branch into these different areas, but they talk to each other. They see that somebody else they knew was interviewed, then they feel it's okay to take a chance. But it's all coming together, and we have no end of opportunities to speak with interesting folks.
Yeah, Doolittle's rate just came up recently because of the movie Midway. A lot of people might be familiar with it because of that.
Yep, absolutely.
Well,
So
I find it really interesting because it's one thing that Scott and I, we're all about connection and community. That's exactly what's happened to us. And what we do is people are coming to us to be guests these days. I have to actually hold people off because we have so many guests coming in, because community starts to talk and starts to suggest you to other people. And that's always a blessing, because it helps with getting amazing people like you, because you are connected to me that way through somebody else as well. And what I find interesting, though, my wife is a huge history buff. She loves history. And I was just sharing your website and information with her because she loves that. And I think that she's the librarian for an elementary school. And my wife, we joke, knows everything. She knows all about history, knows all about things that nobody else knows about. And it's because she's really interested in that. And it's amazing. The kids nowadays, they just don't really teach them those things, but my wife does. she pulls out books. She explains things to them. She explains what things mean, why we're having holidays, what things are going on in life. And I think that's so important because we're missing that today with our younger generation. They're missing our history, or it's being tainted as all bad.
Agreed. And I think with history is it's about storytelling. If it's dry facts, you got to learn this, you got to learn that. I think I've had some teachers, I could name a few of them right now, going way back. They were the teachers who you could tell they were excited about it. They couldn't wait to tell you a story, and they told it as a story. And I remember some of those stories here 40, maybe 50 years later. And it's those who have the passion. It sounds like your wife has a passion for teaching those things because she loves it and she wants other people.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Scott?
I was just mentioning Craig Miller. We had him on our show. Actually, it was the May the 4th show, but he was one of the original publicists for the first Star Wars movie, the first and second Star Wars movie, starting in 1977.
Wow.
And he just tells so many fabulous stories because we all know the result of the movie, right? Those of us that were around saw the lines around the block, right? And the way that it changed the perception of science fiction movies from those Roger Corman B movies that he filmed over a weekend to something that was very stunning, cinematic stylized. And but these are the stories that you're able to uncover as you go back and think about these. What's one that jumps out to you immediately? If you were to put one on the cover of the back of your book, what would it be?
Well, it's difficult. There's for so many different reasons, and actually friendships that we've developed. But one that just stands out, particularly this time of year, is the movie Jaws. I'm sure you've both seen the movie Jaws. You talk about people lying around the block. I remember from when I first saw it back in '75. And I was always curious about the mention of the New Jersey shark attacks of 1916. It's actually mentioned in the movie briefly. And I've heard that, loosely the story might have been based on it, maybe not. But that there's definitely a story about this rogue shark that hit the Jersey shore back in 1916. So Kelly and I decided to go on an adventure to sort of do some research. So we went with some friends. We rented a kayak. And we took the kayak through Matawan Creek, and we rode. By the way, tandem kayaks are a good way to get a divorce if you want a divorce. Because if somebody's not pulling their weight, and it usually wasn't me, you can go.
We'll stay away from those.
Stay away from. Take your own. But anyway, we went up and we were able to see where these incidents happened, and then later on we booked an interview with the Matawan town historian, and he told the entire story of the village of Matawan, New Jersey, and how it responded to these shark attacks back in 1916. And we became very friendly with the historian. We went down a couple times. He brought us to all these sites, and it was just I guess we did a lot of research on site, and it was just fascinating. And that was one of the ones that really stands out.
Yeah. Well, I think that the beautiful thing about history is it's just really kind of adds depth to life and gives you so much perspective on things. And I love, we just went to the East Coast, and the first place we go when we get there, my beautiful wife schedules historical visits. So we go to Massachusetts, we fly into Boston. Where do we go first? We drive down to Plymouth, and we see Plymouth Rock, and we see the Mayflower and the things that are there. And then we drive up and we see Salem, Massachusetts, where all the witch trials were and all that stuff. So we're always going to those type of places. And it's really a blessing because she's really tied in and she kind of drives that for us. But I really appreciate it because a lot of those things I would never get to without somebody in my life pointing me that direction. And that's what I love about what you're doing, James. And that is you're helping people kind of revitalize, re-energize, gets excitement around history and all the things that are around those. And so I just appreciate that and all that you're doing. Do you have a favorite historical story or a favorite historical guest you've had so far?
Yeah, I'd say as far as the person that one of the people I found so fascinating, first of all, because of what he experienced, but secondly, his age is it's so magnificent. His name is he's a veteran. I mentioned about a B-17 pilot. He was a pilot in the Bloody 100th Bomb Group, part of the 8th Air Force during World War II. He flew 25 missions over enemy occupied area. His name was Lucky. They called him Lucky because he survived it. Lucky Luckadoo. His name is John Luckadoo. He's 103 now. I've interviewed him twice on two different perspectives on some things. One was on a book he co-wrote with another gentleman, and also he was giving me his analysis of the series. Spielberg did a series called Masters of the Air. I don't know, Scott, I know you're interested probably in Air Force stuff. I don't know if you guys got to see that, but he was sort of talking about what he thought of that. And then he was kind enough to actually do a Zoom interview conversation with two of my grandsons.
Oh, wow.
We were able to each individually, one did it before the other, but they asked him questions, and he was so kind to take time out and speak to them. And that's something that they'll always have. And we're still in touch with him. Wonderful, wonderful guy. There's so many guests who've been great. But another one, a gentleman, his name is Buell Wesley Frazier. And he is, I believe he's in his early 80s now. He lives in Texas, and he actually drove Lee Harvey Oswald to the book depository on November 22nd, 1963. And he was actually, picked up by the police, and, he was a suspect for a while or anything like that. But he is such a gentleman, such a nice man. And I interviewed him, and he told his story about what it was like to work with Lee Harvey Oswald, what happened that day that he drove him, and how that affected his life going forward. He also went into the service later and served his country, and we're still in touch, and he's just a nice man.
That reminds me of Bobby G, and he was just making comments on this earlier. And Russ can tell you a lot more details about him, but he was there for 9/11.
Wow.
And he was actually on our show on a 9/11 recently. And what a story. What a
Well,
story.
Bobby G,
Definitely.
this is how we meet people like this. And I got introduced to Bobby G through a really good friend here locally. And when I went back to New York, he took me on a personal tour of the 9/11 museum and showed me they have some of his actual gear in the 9/11 museum because he was there on site right as it happened and was crawling under, helping, trying to get people out. And they treat him like royalty there, but he's just such a down to earth, loving guy and such an amazing man. But I tell you, when we went to that 9/11 museum, they stopped everything and they let us come up and go through because Bobby G's there. And so it's amazing to meet people like that have got such a place in history with, just out of selfless, unselfish love, trying to save those people that day. And so anyway, those things are just amazing. In fact, I should probably link you in with him, James. He'd be really good since, 9/11 is it's more recent history, but it's such a dramatic historical event. He'd be great to be on your show. Anyway,
yes.
Okay, so we got to wrap things up here, James. I got to be the responsible host, and what I need is to wrap things up and give us your gold nugget of the day. What you really want people to remember from today's show, and then let everybody know how they get in touch with you. Because I tell you, I want to get in touch with you already.
Yes, we are. Again, we've been around 5 years. We have a Facebook page, but we also have a website. It's yourhistoryyourstory.com. And so you can go to our webpage, you can find our episodes there, and you can, get in touch with us. Our email is yhyspodcast@gmail.com. You can reach us that way. And I'd like people to know that we love telling stories. There's so many interesting things to learn from people who have either done deep dives into, studying an era or an event, or people who are just sharing about their family and what you mentioned about talking about what did your grandpa do, or what was your grandma like. We also have a blog, and you mentioned grandpa or grandma. In our blog, our first blog was actually about my grandma Moore on my mother's side. She was a World War I veteran. She was in the Royal Air Force when she was a teenager in World War I. She was a fire warden in World War II in London during the Blitz. Things like that are in our blogs. We also, the 1916 shark attack story, we've got that in the blog. So people can find interesting stories there. Also find our episodes, and you can contact us through our email and let us know if you have any comments on any of our episodes, or if you have a story that you'd like to share or tell. We'd be really glad to hear from you.
Well, that is so amazing. Well, I appreciate you, and wow, I mean, this is such a wealth of knowledge and information. I'm going to make sure and tie into your website and your YouTube page and all the things you're doing, and check that out. I already connected my wife with that to look at as well. And I just want to thank you for being here today, James. This won't be the last time. We'll have you back because this has been very, very insightful. And if you're willing to come back, we'll bring you on again because I just think this is so amazing. Everybody, I just want to remind you that we are here every Wednesday at 7 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and we have amazing people like James. And you can join our YouTube page to see this again or to find the other guests that are there. So please do that today. And James, we're going to say goodbye to you here on screen, but hang tight for a moment in the green room. We'll be right there. All right.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you. All right. See you in a sec.
Well, that was fabulous. Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Great stories. Yeah. Great stories. And I'm glad he's capturing history from the people who made it.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm telling you. And I just want to remind everybody, we have all of James' contact information. His YouTube is scrolling along the bottom. There's his other information. It's all clickable. So you go straight to James and find that out. And such great history. It's so, so rich. And we are losing touch with our history. So that is so great of all that he is doing. And Scott, you have any last words before you take off on the rest of your trip?
Well, I'm just going to tell people, subscribe to the podcast and give it a listen.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely do that. And don't forget to go to local.theexperience.video too and subscribe to our YouTube page and look at all the shows that Scott and I are doing. You go directly to our YouTube page at theexperience.video, and but local.theexperience.video has most of the information. So appreciate you going there. With that, we're going to say goodbye for another week. Appreciate y'all being here. And we have one person that wants to drop in before we go. Yes, Kermie wanted to say hi before we go. A little smile for the end of the show. Until then, enjoy life, enjoy the experience, and enjoy.
Yeah,
Scott.
Enjoy the cool experience.
All right, see you, everybody. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to The Experience Live with Russ and Scott. If you enjoyed today's show, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or subscribe on YouTube. See you next time.